What's up, fantasy football fans? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a player who might just be flying under the radar in your fantasy football leagues, Jake Ferguson, the tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Now I know what you're thinking. Jake Ferguson? A sleeper pick? Absolutely. The 2025 NFL season has a lot of potential for this guy, and I'm here to tell you why he could be a major value pick for your fantasy football team this year. So, buckle up because we're about to break down Jake Ferguson's stats, role, and why he could be the next big sleeper pick in fantasy football. Let's get into it. First things first, let's talk about who Jake Ferguson is. For those of you who might not be as familiar with the Cowboys tight end, let's take a little trip back to his college days. Ferguson played college football at the University of Wisconsin, and he was known for his solid hands, impressive route running, and ability to make big plays when needed. He wasn't the biggest tight end, standing at 6'5" and weighing around 250 pounds, but he was incredibly athletic and had a knack for getting open in tight spaces. His production in college was respectable, catching over 100 passes and totaling 10-plus touchdowns over his career, but it was his ability to block and be a reliable target that earned him a spot in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys saw the potential in Ferguson and drafted him in the 4th round of the 2022 NFL Draft. Since then, Jake has been steadily working his way up the Cowboys' depth chart, and in 2025, he's ready to make a major impact in the Cowboys' offense. Let's take a closer look at why he's a sleeper pick in fantasy football. To understand why Jake Ferguson is such an interesting fantasy pick, we need to look at the state of the Cowboys' offense in 2025. The Cowboys are still one of the most dynamic teams in the NFL, with a balanced attack that features quarterback Dak Prescott, the explosive running back Tony Pollard, and the dynamic wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. In 2025, the Cowboys' offense has only gotten more dangerous with the addition of new playmakers and the continued development of existing stars. This is crucial because, in fantasy football, it's all about opportunities. The more weapons an offense has, the more likely that tight ends like Ferguson can slip through the cracks and capitalize on mismatches. One key development for Ferguson is that the Cowboys' offensive coordinator has made it clear that they want to spread the ball around more and keep defenses on their toes. This means that everyone, including tight ends like Ferguson, is going to see more action this year. So, where does Jake Ferguson fit into this high-powered Cowboys offense? Let's start by acknowledging the fact that the Cowboys have been using multiple tight ends in their schemes over the past few seasons. And while star tight end Dalton Schultz was the go-to guy for a while, Ferguson is now stepping into that role as the clear T1 for Dallas. As a versatile tight end, Ferguson has the ability to both block and catch, which makes him valuable in a variety of situations. He's not just a catch-and-run guy, he's also key in helping to create holes for the run game. This is important for fantasy because it means Ferguson will see snaps on almost every play, whether it's as a pass catcher or a blocker. He's going to be on the field a lot, which leads to more opportunities for fantasy points. But here's the kicker: Ferguson's role in the passing game is set to expand in 2025. The Cowboys have been quietly building more passing plays designed for the tight end position, and Ferguson has been the beneficiary of that trust. We've seen this before, where a tight end goes from being a blocking specialist to becoming an important part of the receiving game. Look no further than guys like George Kittle or even Dallas Goedert, who started their careers primarily as blockers before becoming fantasy stars. Now, let's talk about Jake Ferguson's fantasy potential. If you've been keeping track of his career, you'll know that he's had a solid start to his NFL journey. In 2024, he recorded just under 500 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns, nothing eye-popping, but solid production for a player still developing. But here's the thing: Ferguson's role is expected to increase significantly in 2025, and that means more targets, more yards, and more touchdowns. In terms of fantasy football, Tight ends can be tricky because most of the elite guys are already well established, but the tight end position is also notoriously thin after the top few. So, finding that sleeper tight end, the guy who can finish in the top 10-12, is huge for your fantasy squad. Increased targets. With Schultz now gone, Ferguson is primed to see a significant increase in targets. He should see around 80-90 targets this season, which is a great number for a tight end who's not considered a traditional elite fantasy option. Red zone usage. The Cowboys' red zone offense will likely see Ferguson become a prime target near the goal line. Tight ends often excel in red zone situations because of their size and ability to box out defenders. Ferguson should see his touchdown numbers rise in 2025, and that's where the real fantasy value is. Consistency. While Ferguson won't be putting up huge numbers every week, he'll be a reliable option in your lineup. The Cowboys' offense is going to be balanced, and Ferguson's floor should be solid. A safe, consistent tight end can be a huge asset in fantasy football. If you're in a 12-team league, I'd expect Ferguson to be drafted around rounds 8-10. If you're in a deeper league or a Dynasty league, this could be the perfect time to snatch him up as a true sleeper pick. Of course, Ferguson isn't the only tight end people are going to be eyeing in 2025, so let's quickly compare him to some other sleeper tight ends this season. I've got a few names for you here who are also being talked about in the sleeper category, guys like Sam LaPorta, Michael Mayer, and even Jake Okonkwo. But here's why Ferguson stands out. Ferguson versus Sam LaPorta. LaPorta is a good player, but he's entering a less explosive offense than Ferguson. The Lions will likely rely more heavily on their running backs than Amon-Ra St. Brown, which could limit LaPorta's opportunities. Ferguson versus Michael Mayer. Mayer is a talented tight end, but his role in the Raiders' offense isn't as clearly defined. With so many other weapons on that roster, Ferguson's path to consistent targets is clearer. Ferguson versus Jake Okonkwo. Okonkwo is another exciting sleeper, but Tennessee's offense is still a bit more of a question mark, whereas the Cowboys have a proven quarterback in Dak Prescott and an established offense that will feed Ferguson. Overall, while these guys are definitely on the radar, Ferguson's combination of upside, opportunity, and consistency makes him the one to keep your eyes on in 2025. So, what makes Jake Ferguson such a good sleeper pick? It's all about opportunity and fit. The Cowboys are going to need more out of their tight end position, and Ferguson is the guy who could capitalize. With a strong offense built around Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Tony Pollard, the pressure will be on defenses to spread their coverage. Ferguson, who has a great ability to find soft spots in coverage, will see more favorable matchups this year. In addition, while some sleeper picks are high-risk, high-reward types, Ferguson comes with a relatively safe floor. He's not going to get you 15-20 points every week, but he'll be consistent, which is what you want from your tight end. In a season where the tight end pool is shallow, you need someone you can count on week in and week out. Jake Ferguson is poised to be that guy in 2025. Alright, folks, that's a wrap on why Jake Ferguson should be on your radar as a top sleeper pick in fantasy football for the 2025 season. If you're looking for value in your tight end position, Ferguson could be your guy. He's got the opportunity, the skill set, and the offense around him to be a huge fantasy asset this year. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree that Ferguson could break out in 2025? Or do you have another sleeper tight end in mind? As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any future fantasy football content. Until next time, stay fantasy strong.